Hi, and welcome to another episode of In the Spotlight, where we shine a very bright light on entrepreneurs, SMEs, innovators, and creators. I'm Maxcene Crowe, your host, and I am welcoming today Jason Graystone, who was formerly a trader, is very prolific on YouTube, and is the founder of Graystone Education. Jason, how are you today?
Very well, thank you. Yeah, great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for joining me. So our audience is predominantly facility managers, people in real estate, property. And so it's really great to hear a journey from a different profession. Many years ago, I worked on a investment banking account, actually managing half a dozen of their buildings in the centre of London, that 1 million square foot. And to say it's quite demanding, your role. It'd be great to hear about your journey. It's even more challenging to try and keep those trading floors up and running 100% of the time, 24/7. This is going to be the flip side for me of what your journey's been like. So can you
Yeah,
introduce yourself and how you became an entrepreneur?
yeah. So I was, I'm an investor these days, and I invest in all different levels of speculation activity, such as right at the bottom rung, from index funds right up to Bitcoin, and I've done everything. The way that I got into all of that was, first of all, having a desire to become financially independent, and then when I went into work, I realized quickly that I was never going to build wealth or achieve financial freedom at least as quickly as I would like to if I had a job. I had to control my income. The maths just didn't add up, so I had to actually increase my income to outperform inflation, and I had to get at least 10% increase on my income every year. So I had to go into the world of entrepreneurship pretty young. I started a business at 22 years old. And so I started my business, and I'm still on this journey to become financially independent, raising my investments, my skill level in the markets, until the point where the business became quite stressful. I needed to increase my return on investment by just a little bit towards the end, and I was looking at really high speculative endeavors like options trading and even online poker. I was looking at things like that, and then I ended up blowing a lot of money in the financial markets, just in lessons and learning and donations to the market and all that, until I eventually became good. So then I was, a consistently profitable retail trader, which means I was just trading my own money. And then I did a bit of work on some of these proprietary trading desks in Midtown Manhattan, and kind of worked with some of the guys there to see what real successful trading was about, and just took some of the concepts, took some of the lessons, applied it to my own trading, and just become better and better. So I've never actually worked as an institutional trader on a trading desk. I've always traded my own money. And then full circle, I've gone back into business as such in the educational side of things. So I've done it all. It's been a great journey.
So what were some of the challenges that you faced? So I know, because trading is very volatile, and it's quite risky. It can be quite risky. So to do that with your own money, what kind of mindset did you go in with that, and why did you use your own money and not do it in a traditional sense?
The reason I use my own money is because, well, first of all, I didn't approach it. There was a little bit of not get rich quick, but I thought it was easier than it was. Like everything, we all think it's easier than it always takes longer than you think it's going to take. But for me, it was just the final piece in the puzzle. It was just to replace that, like to actually knock up my returns, because it's higher risk, higher reward. But I didn't want to lose the kind of I didn't want to add volatility to my returns. I wanted to speed it up, but maintain that kind of fixed income growth. It was blending it with what I was doing in the stock market and all the rest of it. So I allocated a portion of my liquidity to the trading account, and that portion grew and grew as I got better and better at trading. But it's never been something that I've put like everything into, because that would be like building an upside down pyramid in my mind. It topples over, or the volatility is something that your mindset can't keep up with, and therefore you end up squandering the whole lot. So it was a very sensible approach for me, and it was to get me out of a job. The last thing I wanted to do is go and work on a trading desk. I didn't want a job. I did not want to work anywhere. I wanted to sit at home and do whatever, I play guitar and do whatever I wanted for the rest of my days. And that was the goal for me. So that was the only option. I was only going to work for myself, trade for myself, and make money myself. I wasn't going to go and work for anyone. There's a lot of people who want to go and build extravagant businesses and all that, and they celebrate by the amount of team they've got. That's not me personally. More team means more headache for me, and I couldn't think of anything worse. I want to wake up every day and do what I want, when I want, wherever I want, which is what I've tried to design.
Yeah, I have to say, when you talk about teams, when I was in corporate world and had team responsibility, you do end up pretty much 99% of your time is managing all of the emotion and all of the team, and
Yeah,
1% is then doing your job, and then you're doing it out of hours because you
I
spent all
know.
your time having to manage the team.
People say to me, isn't trading really, really volatile? And I say, well, have you met human beings?
Actually, you're true. That's so true. That's so true. Oh my gosh, yeah. So just in terms of your mindset now, just to get a bit under the skin of who Jason is, how do you handle setbacks or failures if you've had those experiences in your journeys?
Yeah, I don't, failure to me is something where you've tried something that you really wanted to do, and then you've hit a hurdle, and then you've just given up and you haven't pursued it again. That to me would be a failure. I don't really have any of those, and the reason I don't have them is because I see everything as a
Clarity.
lesson. It's all a lesson, And one of the things that's really assisted my emotional development, how I've grown in myself, is being able to see the lessons in the losses, the losses, lessons in the blessings in the lessons, and really see the good in the bad. So I think it's the reason people give up is because they label some event that takes place very, very negative, and then that puts a fear in them to go and do it in the future or to try again. And what I try to do is I try and see the lessons and the benefits in any situation. So for me, if I was to lose 10 grand in the stock market or 30 grand in my trading account or whatever, that is a necessary loss to make me more money in the future. It's a lesson, it's a what came from that? Well, okay, well, I've got better. I know not to be so aggressive on my entry, or maybe I missed something here or there, or maybe I was too harsh on my stop loss positioning. And you apply that to going forward, and then you get better and better going forward, and then you make more and more money going forward. And the same goes for anything really, just asking yourself what good came from that situation instead of why me. I think that's a really powerful habit to instill in your day-to-day life, and that's something I've had to do. That just keeps me calm and balanced and very, very content. I know that every day is. When I started on YouTube, I spent 4 hours doing a 4-minute video, and it was awful. And then I knew that tomorrow's video might be a bit better, and it
Yeah.
was. And then it was tiny bit better, but the next day was a tiny bit better. Just seeing the lessons and the benefits that come from what you've labeled as a negative event, I think is a really important thing to do.
That's a really important life lesson to have.
Absolutely.
Tell us about Graystone Education. How did that start, and share what it's all about?
Yeah, so I was, there was a period of time where I was sat at home not doing much, and other than trading. And as glamorous as that might sound, you kind of lack a bit of meaning, fulfillment. You're not really doing much, My family would be like out, and my extended family would be questioning what I'm doing. Probably thought I was up to no good, but I was sat at home every day, not dealing drugs, I promise. It was just, I was just, it is an extraordinary way to make money, but you do start to lack fulfillment. You want to feel useful. You want to just wake up and feel a little bit of zest. And you really lose that from just trading. It's just clicking buttons, it's looking at charts, and it wasn't there. So I started sharing what I was doing online. I was sharing my trading sessions on a like a group call kind of thing, and it was all free, and everyone would just come in and see the realities, and it was really just to build a community. And then over the years, it became so popular. But what I was seeing is there was a lot of people going into trading not at the right time. They were trying to learn their hand at trading when they didn't have any money, or they were like desperate to quickly make some money. And then I started doing a lot of networking and hanging around with entrepreneurs, who were doing phenomenally well. They had great businesses and doing 150, 300,000, a million a year, whatever it was. And then they were asking me about trading, and they had no money because they couldn't even run their business properly. They were great at earning money but not managing it, right?
Yeah.
So I started to think, there's a few steps before trading that you need to understand, and it doesn't seem like most people understand it. So I really just started to map out what I'd done from 22 to 29, and walk people through the whole process. And then that in itself became a full-blown education company. It was newsletter, here's my thought, here's my strategies in a newsletter, here's my podcast, here's my here's my YouTube channel, here's and we were basically building a community that we could serve. And it was amazing. It really was amazing. We had such fantastic results and feedback that's what I'm that's where I'm at the moment. We've helped lots and lots of people find their feet, change their mindset, really develop solid wealth creation strategies, and the ones that do then go on to trading have much more sustainable and successful results. So that became the whole education company. So yeah, that's where it stemmed from.
That's incredible. That's absolutely incredible. So Jason, can you just tell us what's the best piece of advice you've ever received as an entrepreneur?
As an entrepreneur, okay, so from a business standpoint, I had a mentor when I was really young, 19, and he was my boss at the time, and he was called George Turnbull. And he said to me, to be in business, you have to be in business, right? And I used to argue about this with him, but I didn't really know what he meant at the time. But what he actually meant was this guy had tried his hand at everything. He'd done everything, and he never stopped until he was making money. And what he actually means is, to make a business successful, to be successful in business, you just have to keep being in business. You can't just stop. You can't just something doesn't work, so you give up, or something isn't going your way, so you stop, or you don't quite like doing that anymore, so you just give up. You have to just keep being there. You have to be in business, right? You have to learn the lessons. You have to try something that doesn't work and have 0 signups to your thing, or 0 sales on your webinar, or you have to have all this stuff, and then you have to do it again, because you have to keep being in business to be in business. Otherwise, you're not in business, right? So it's such a simple quote, but I've carried it with me all my life. And the amount of people that I see just stop at the tiniest hurdle, or, oh yeah, but I only got 5 followers, so I gave up, or I only got 1 sale, so I just didn't do it anymore. Well, that's the beginning. That's the feedback that you need to just keep being in business. So you take what you learn and you go, okay, well, why didn't they buy? What was it? And really, really meditate on that and analyze that until you find something that does work. And if you iron out all of the things that don't work, you're gonna have a great business. That's it.
Yeah.
So your job is to show up and iron out all those things as quickly as you possibly can. You have to be in business.
I love that. I can relate as well, because there was a few days
We all
ago.
can.
It's literally felt like you've got that, was it the gerbil on the little wheel, and it's just going round and round and round and round. And because there was a lot going on, I was thinking, oh my God, I just want to jump off. I just want to jump off this wheel. And I can imagine myself just sitting outside, but the wheel's still going round and round. Yeah. And I was just like, just give me 5. But that you absolutely, I know it's a strange analogy, but that's just how it felt physically. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And then you just have to keep going.
Every entrepreneur has had a back on the tools moment where they say, it'd be easier if I just went back on the tools, And what I mean by that is I'll just go and be an electrician again, or I'll just go and do the checkout job again, or whatever it might be, right? Back on the tools. Because sometimes that can really feel like a great relief. It's like, I won't answer to anyone. I go work, come home, that is done, right? But if you can quickly weigh up the benefits to what you'll have as a result of achieving pushing and pushing beyond the current struggle that you're in, they'll way out exceed answering to someone every day and being on the, being on the thing. So we've all had those moments, but it's,
Part of the journey.
it's
I
part
was
of
going to
it for
say,
sure.
and one of the learnings is that you can never, a true entrepreneur, you can never kill that entrepreneur spirit. So even if you did go back on the tools,
you go back to a job and you'd
end up being a manager, you'd end up being a supervisor, then you'd be like, oh, I'm just going to start my own business.
I've seen that happen so many times.
Okay, so in terms of trading, what would you advise? Okay, I'm in industry, facilities managers, so they're very, very time poor. But if they had an interest in trading just to earn a little bit of money, despite the risk, and we know that it is risky, what are the 3 tips you would give someone that's thinking about starting?
Okay, well, let's talk about risk then, because I think this is important. Good traders are risk managers. They're not traders, they're risk managers. And the money comes as a byproduct of managing risk. That's it. You focus on not losing money and you'll earn money. Just like what we said about the lessons in business, you focus on the lessons and you'll you'll have a good business. So think about risk, right? So people say to me, well, it's risky. Is trading risky? Is it gambling? And I was in Vegas last year and I observed the casino in the hotel that I was staying at, and there's loads of punters, all random. It's all random. People going out for a night out. They're trying their hand at the roulette and the blackjack. They're having a good time, and they're blowing the money, but there's no consistency. It's all random. And they lose money and they go home and they've accepted they lost the money or whatever, and they might have a lucky win or what have you. But when I looked over at the poker tournament table, it was the same players in the semi-finals every night. It was like the same people every night, right? So when you think about gambling or you think about any speculation like trading or whatever, or poker, the approach is what makes it either gambling or professional, right? You can choose to approach a gamble or you can choose to approach it as a professional. And depending on what approach you take will govern whether or not you end up with consistent profits. I know people who make money year on year playing poker because they don't treat it as a gamble. They're approaching it as a professional. They've got a risk management strategy, a money management strategy. They know what their maximum allowable risk is, and they know when to stop playing and when to cut their losses. They just know it all. They know the game. So what most traders do is they lose money because they go in as a gambler. They are dabbling. The amount of people that say, I dabbled in trading. You can't dabble in trading and expect that's just, you might as well go and bet on a horse. You might as well go and play the lottery. It's no different. Whereas if you have all trading is events that have taken place and building objective rules around capitalizing on moves that take place historically and hoping that they play out in the future and then playing those odds. That is really it. It is pattern recognition and emotional discipline to just not break that rule, not change the rules.
Yeah.
And if you understand that, you can approach trading as a professional, not as a gambler.
How do you, there's Bloomberg, there's all the news, the current affairs in the markets. Does that really affect how you view trading, or do you go in with the same strategy despite what's happening in the US and all the different markets?
I don't pay any attention to the news. I don't know who the Prime Minister is. I don't know who the Chancellor of Exchequer is. I don't know anything. I don't look at who's president, who's not president. And the reason being is the only time that fundamental news events like that are taken into consideration in my own trading is to keep me out of the market, right? So if there's a big news announcement like an election, or there's the ECB press conference, or the non-farm payroll, or the FOMC, or any of these events, I stay out of trading. What I don't do is I don't use them to go, this could make me more money, and then I try and jump in, right? Because that's, again, you're going into randomness territory, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to guess a market participant's reaction, the average market participant's reaction, which is impossible. You can't because everyone's got, well, some people voted for Trump and some people didn't want Trump, right? So there's an opposing opinion to everything. So how can you guess what people are going to do. It's impossible. So what I do is I use technical analysis. I'm a technical trader, and I look at the chart of historical markets, and that represents the market participants' actual behavior and reactions. And then your job, because human evolution of the mind hasn't really changed for about 3,000 years. We're pretty simple people. The same things happen all the time. And when those same things happen all the time, you can start to build rules around certain things that happen. The difference between that and, say, an institutional trader, like let's just say there's a big bank like the Bank of China or the Bank of New York or, Citibank or someone like that, they're not looking at that sort of stuff. They're not looking at charts because they are moving the market. They are just betting against a country, right? And they are just moving the market. So retail traders like us, we don't have the ability to do that. We're trading too small. So our job is to ride those waves, capture those moves by the whales. And that's really it. As long as you accept that and you understand that, you have half a chance at making money. If you think you know what the market's going to do, you're going to lose money.
Yeah, that's some really sound advice there. Okay, so bearing in mind your lifestyle, what's your work-life balance like?
Yeah, so my work, I don't really have a work. I've basically created a life where I only do the things that I want to do, and if anything doesn't align with that, then I don't do it. And I talk about freedom in 3 stages. So there's mental freedom, mobility freedom, and financial freedom. Now, your mental freedom is knowing who you are truly and understanding what you want and your goals and where you're content. Mobility freedom is being able to be that person wherever you want and earn money doing whatever you want and making that income as leveraged as possible. And then the financial freedom is how much time you can buy into the future if you was to stop. And what I've deliberately and consistently done throughout my life is to align my activities, choices, decisions, partnerships, everything with that, because I don't want to ever do anything that I don't want to do as a person. The reason I think most people struggle with that or achieving that is because they don't know who they are in themselves. First of all, they're looking up to people and other people's goals. I was with a guy in Dubai last week, and I said, what's the next goal for your business? He said, 50 million's the next goal. And I said, why 50 million? It's like a round number. And he was like, yeah, it's a round number. It'll be that's the next thing to go for. And I said, have you thought about like the energy and effort that you've got to put in? You're probably, to really drive it to that next level, you probably have to, not see your kids, your wife or whatever. And yeah. So why 50 million? Anyway, it turns out that he just wants to do it to like prove an ex wrong or prove some old partner or boss wrong, right? And you're like, seriously? So you're going to be a slave to that person's thoughts, and it doesn't mean anything to you. It's not freedom to you. You're just doing it, and you're going to go do this for 5 years, and I never want to be doing that. I want to know where I'm content. I want to know when enough is enough. And once I've got there, I want to say no to everything that doesn't align with who I am as a person and what I want.
It's really,
and that is it.
Yeah, it's so important. I actually I feel a physical imbalance when I'm not doing what I'm meant to be doing.
Exactly.
It's because you know yourself. Your
body will be giving off like a mechanism. It's like, this isn't you. Don't do this. This is not or you're being taken advantage of, or this isn't a fair deal. And you'll feel this stuff. And the more you can just say, actually, no, I'm not doing that. The better. Now, I appreciate that there's a lot to this, and you can't just say, well, how the hell do I make money doing whatever the hell I want? Well, you can. It's just you need to ask different questions of yourself. It's not following along what you think you should be doing. I see a lot of entrepreneurs getting into I need to do this funnel or that funnel or this landing page or this flipping, do this, that, and the other. And it's like, do you? Do you really? How about reduce your lifestyle costs? Then you might be freer.
Yeah. It's quite interesting. You just reminded me talking there, my daughter the other night. And there is that saying about whatever you're going to be doing in life, it's not easy. It's going to be hard. So and then she turned around and reminded me, she goes, yeah, it's going to be hard, but you choose your hard, basically.
Yeah. Choose your hard. So true. So true. There's a hard either way.
Yeah. So just choose your hard. Do you have, is there a book, podcast, or resource that's been quite influential on you?
Oh, wow, there's many. I mean, if I was to pick one mentor who's been instrumental in my behavior and my life, it would be Dr. John DeMartini, and he wrote The Values Factor, and he just wrote the foreword for my book, which I'm very grateful for. But he is just a phenomenal person, and he's a human behavioral specialist. He's studied thousands and thousands of texts, and he's been running something called the Breakthrough Experience for about 30 odd years, and he does it every weekend, and he's just incredible, just an incredible human being. I would definitely say check him out, check out his work.
Thank you. And tell us about your book, because you've recently published a book, haven't you?
It's published and it goes live on the 24th of July. So depending on when you're listening to this, it will be live or not. So it's called Always Free, and essentially it is strategies, measurable steps you can take, and strategies around those 3 freedoms: mental freedom, mobile freedom, and financial freedom. And I basically just give you everything. It's everything I know inside that book, which will lead to what I believe to be the most inspiring life that you could live.
That's incredible. So any final words of wisdom from you, Jason, just to encourage my audience?
Final words of wisdom. I believe most people think they want to be rich. I think they want to be free. When you were 7 years old, you might be out with an ice cream or playing football or on your bike or your skateboard or whatever. And you had all the freedom in the world when you were 7 years old, right? But you looked at the adults when they used to call you in at night, and you used to think, God, I can't wait till I'm an adult. I'll have all the freedom. No one can tell me what to do, right? And the tragedy is you become less and less free. And you go further and further away from who you truly are, which is that 7-year-old kid that I believe that we want to maintain forever. I just want to be a 7-year-old kid forever. That's all I want to be. I think if you really fully appreciate, what I've just said, and that resonates, then your job should be to really analyze your life and make sure that you are taking actions that align with who you truly are as a human being, because only then are you going to enjoy the rest of it. We all want to be. My goal is to have no goals, because every time you have a goal, you're a slave to a goal. So, of course, your goal should be to just have a life that you wake up every day and want to live for the rest of your life. And just as a byproduct of living that life, you tick off milestones and you hit goals, right? But it's not a slave to a goal. It's not an intentional thing that you're like really sacrificing. For me, that's not life. We're not here long enough. We're here for 80 odd years, 90 years or whatever. It's a blip in the ocean and you need to enjoy it. So you need to go and be a kid again. That's my advice.
I love that. Jason, how can listeners connect with you and learn more about what you're doing with your Graystone Education?
Yeah, you can go to jasongraystone.com, or you can go to alwaysfree.com if you want to learn more about the book, and you can go and listen to the podcast and all the rest of it there. And let us know what you think. But just watch out for the fake accounts on the socials.
True. Very, very true.
Yeah.
I almost fell victim to that.
Yeah. Just go to jasongraystone.com and you'll see all the real ones.
Thank you, Jason. This has been another episode of In the Spotlight with the amazing Jason Graystone. Thank you so much for your time today. And this has been another episode. And until next time, we'll see you soon. Jason, thank you.
Thank you very much.